So, Jen, you ready? Okay. All right, welcome everybody. I'll call the Ridgway Town Council meeting of Wednesday, July 2023 to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Council members Graham-Lee.
Here.
Kroger. Here. Bacon is not present. Schuyler.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. All right, thank you. That brings us to additions or deletions who are from the agenda. Is there anything?
I have nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, then the adoption of the consent calendar, anything on there somebody wants to pull off, or should I motion to approve? So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Russ, seconded by Terry, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, passes unanimously, thank you. This is public comments, established time on the agenda for people to address the council on anything that's not otherwise on the agenda. Does anybody have anything for us today? That's all here for something on the agenda. Good. We'll move right along to public requests and presentations. Item number 7 is an update from the Department of Local Affairs Division of Housing. Welcome, Shirley Diaz, Housing Development Specialist.
Oh, I need to go up there, or am I fine?
Probably for the Zoom people, it'd be nice to have
Oh,
you up here.
okay. Oh,
They'll be able to hear now. It's better.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Replace them.
Come on.
And meetings all day. So Shirley Diaz, I am the Southwest Housing Development Specialist. So I have 7 counties down here. I'm a Ridgway resident and have been a Uray County resident since Labor Day of
Okay.
since Labor Day of 2007. Six. So long time. A little bit of background. I was the executive director of Telluride at the San Miguel Regional Housing Authority. So I've been doing housing. I got into it when I moved over here. And so I was a newbie, not so much anymore, but with the Division of Housing as a development specialist, I'm new on the development side now. I came from the statewide meeting today that was in Grand Junction. They're doing them all around the state, kind of a listening sessions, but also just talking with people about all the money that's out and available. And, you know, we have CHAPA there, Colorado Housing Finance Authority, Housing Colorado, which is a statewide nonprofit that serves, like over 300 members they have in their organization. OEDIT was there, Office of Economic Development and International Trade, DOH, which is what I'm part of. And so it's really to talk about the money, what's available, but also to listen, what can we do? What are some ideas? What things do you see not happening? And so I've been trying to meet with the jurisdictions one-on-one, because I'm your contact. I'm the contact to send developers to as well. If there's, if they need some gap financing, that is typically what DOH does. We do gap financing, but we do have down payment assistance programs. We work on mobile home park initiatives. Office of Homelessness Initiatives is also like a branch, but part of us. And so, I can be that connection that if you have questions, I want to be able to connect you with whatever people are looking for. So working with the public, working with elected officials, and I will put in a little plug for Prop 123. Hopefully you guys will be opting in. And once that happens, you do not have to do the development. Other people, it will allow like the home trust, it'll allow rural homes. They can do developments within the town because you have opted in. And the county also has to opt in, and then the city of Uray needs to opt in as well. But sometimes people just miss that little nuance and they think that they have to commit to the development. And you don't. And Deb actually contacted me and I connected her with OEDIT for the specifics she needed. So again, that's kind of, if it's not something I actually do, I find the connection. So any questions?
Ready for questions? Shirley, anybody in the audience have questions?
Any surprises from the listening sessions?
No, I think, there's people really try to figure out housing in their region in different ways. So even though, there was, except for Mesa, all the other areas around us, all the other counties are rural. And we still solve our problems in different ways. We still have different issues, So there were just a lot of questions, more than I think ideas at this point. I don't know that people knew that we were really kind of fishing for ideas on what can be done. There's a innovative housing that you guys probably know, former Commissioner Hillary Cooper is the director of innovative housing, and I don't remember the whole thing, but she's under a edit now, and innovative being like the first word in it, that they want to see, we need 225,000 units as catch up, and they want to see how can we make that happen. We can't just do the status quo, and part of that, as you guys have seen, I'm sure, is the pricing of it, that someone can have the greatest intent, but without having all of the money to offset the square footage cost, it's a lot of money, and we want our locals to be able to buy. So it's not so we're not going to get statewide trying to get 225,000 units. I did just quick math. 1,000, if 1,000 square feet is the average and 600 square foot were the cost, which is kind of low in a lot of areas and not and high in some others. So I did that just kind of as an average. It's $135 billion to try to do that as just an average. So,
Right.
We're making headway, the legislature, and actually as voters, we've passed stuff that will keep bringing in money to make housing happen. But yeah, we need different things going on. I would say some new stuff that is sort of newish is people are getting hotels and converting, and not just converting to transitional housing or supportive housing. They're actually creating units, studio units out of them. So that's a rental product. And if they get money from us, then they're serving lower AMIs than if they were doing it completely through private development, then it would pretty much be whatever rents they could get, So that's a little bit that's happening. And yeah, I think everybody's just looking for a way to make affordable housing happen and not just use the word.
Right.
Like that I want to build affordable housing, but how can you really do it and get people in it that are part of the workforce? One of the topics that comes up a lot is employer housing, where employee housing, where an employer owns it. And so that has actually been a little bit of it's difficult for the state and state money because of fair housing.
Right.
So I can't build something like state money and say, okay, only SL Diaz Consulting employees are going to live in it. I can't do that with that money. It's actually a fair housing violation, even if I don't have that money, but the state isn't going to commit to something like that. There's some, that obviously people are always looking for workarounds. So I don't have any language from the state where I could say, oh, that's doable. Right now, it's more like,
It's also really controversial. I don't think it's necessarily, everything is a piece of the puzzle, right? But,
yeah, everything is.
but
And you
when,
have,
when you look at employee housing provided by the employer, it creates a really interesting relationship that
right.
the employees kind of at their beck and call, like more than even normal. So
Yes.
I've heard a lot of people say that that's really low on the priority list just because of the sort of ethical.
I think it sort of has gone through some different phases. There are still people asking for that. Because we had some under the transformational affordable housing grants, we had some applicants that were, talking about that, and then their housing development specialist worked with them on that. I had one with a master lease that they were proposing, which is essentially the same thing. The employer gets the lease, their employee leaves, then they can put their employee in again. And, if it's a complex where there's a wait list, you're violating fair housing. So it is a little controversial, but there's still places that's what they really want.
There's one in Ridgway. the consortium of URA businesses bought the old
Oh, yes,
motel there and
yes,
it
yes.
did exactly that. And it probably works in some cases, but it's just
Yeah,
some potential pitfalls.
there are, because like I saw a lease when I was up there from someone that had restricted housing, an employer. And they had a 3-day clause that if they terminated you, you had to be out of the unit in 3 days. And when we did compliance and saw that, we didn't tell them what to do. We said, I think you want your attorney to look at this. And they changed it. And that's the problem with employee housing that people don't realize is that if I want to change employment, you can't kick me out of my housing because I took a different job, you know? So, so there's still things to work through because there are areas that are bigger than us and have multiple employers that are like, we can't fill hospital positions. I mean, even here in a small business, there's businesses that need 4 or 5 employees, and it's very tough for them to get that. And then we grow to the larger areas in the state and they're looking for 50, and they need housing. And that's why the catch-up is important, because if there is close to enough, if there's enough, that would be great. But if there's close to enough, then there would be housing for new people coming in and then people exiting, allowing the kind of revolving of product. But yeah, without that, it's tough. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate all you do.
Well, thanks.
Workforce housing is a huge challenge statewide and
Yeah. So I look forward to working with, and I'm on the Home Trust Board. So I do not do their projects. I do the rural home projects, but my counterpart that has Montrose County, Olivia, she does the Home Trust application. So there's no conflict of interest and I can stay on that board. So pretty involved in housing as much as possible.
great.
So thank you.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good evening. All right, that takes us to item number 8, request for issuance of a revocable permit for right-of-way from Original Outlaw LLC, member Paul Choke, doing business as Kate's Place, location 615 Clinton. Pam?
So this is an application for the use of the sidewalk in front of Kate's Place for placement of tables, chairs, and also to be included in an application for a state issued restaurant liquor license. We have a number of these in town for people who have liquor licenses. We have not issued these for restaurants who don't have liquor licenses. Everyone that we issued these to also has a liquor license attached to it. You have the form attached to this. It's a standard revocable permit, and it requires insurance and holding the town non-liable. So it's just our standard documentation.
Okay, I see the staff recommendations to approve this. I know Paul's not here, but does anybody have any questions for Pam about this or questions otherwise?
Does it include change of hours?
Excuse me?
Does it include change of business hours for Kate's?
I do not know what the intention is for his liquor license. You mean?
Because the liquor license, yeah, whether
Yeah,
it just is
I don't know.
focused in on lunch or whether they're going to dinner as well.
We didn't have that conversation.
It varies.
What do you guys do about citizen?
That's the main.
We share a brain. Yeah.
Any questions in the audience?
I'll move to approve the revocable permit for use of right of way for Kate's Place. Second.
Motion made by Terry, seconded by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to item number 9, review and action on special event permit application for a pickleball tournament at Ridgway Athletic Club. Pam, it's got your name on it.
Oh, okay. This is an application that we received for a special event permit application to use the athletic park on September 22nd through September 24th for a pickleball tournament to raise funds to support a dedicated pickleball facility. And these types of permits come to council for the first 2 years before they can be handled administratively. They would come to you just for the fact that it's a special event. But we're bringing this to you before we even start having conversations because of the fact that we have never had a request like this before, where they want to take the town facilities and use them specifically for an organization and not allow anyone else use of town facilities. So they're asking to use the tennis courts and the basketball court over the athletic park. They're also asking to use the pavilion and the gazebo area. We do get requests for that, but not for days on end. There is a component in this that addresses an alcohol permit, which we do within the clerk's office. And I have spoke to the applicants about that there were some inconsistencies in there. So if it gets approved, those will have to be changed. So if this is something the council does choose to have staff follow through with, you will see this again with a different application. But at this point, what we're here about is that we want to have discussion at the staff level with council about the exclusive use of the courts and the park amenities. I do know that the applicants are here and want to talk to what their ideas are. So that's
Okay.
where we are today.
We're ready to hear from you.
All right, I guess it's my turn. I've got a presentation. I don't know if you wanted to bring it up for the benefit of the Zooms and all the others.
Have it here in the packages. You have a device to show it on the screen.
Oh, I do not.
Is it just the slides that we already have?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
it's in their agenda packet, Clark.
Oh, okay.
So they've seen it.
All right.
Keep looking for Zoom, folks, so they can see it.
Yeah, while he's trying to find it, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor Clark, council, staff members, thanks for inviting us to talk about this tonight. You know, the whole intent tonight is like, talk about what the intent was and what we need the courts for, and I guess the goal is to like get a purpose or get a direction for what we need to do to come to a understanding of what this special event permit looks like. After we turned it in, Pam called me and expressed those same concerns. So, you know, now it's what's the flexibility to be able to host a pickleball tournament as a fundraiser, with the funds really being earmarked to go to our restricted fund. And all that restricted fund is to help the town now to move forward with design, engineering, procurement, ultimately construction of dedicated pickleball courts in the athletic park. We did note that the strategic plan for our athletic park should kick off here in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully that'll be a component as well of the strategic plan, ultimate use of the park. You know, you've encouraged us to come here and talk about the dedicated court for the pickleball courts. You know, what we've completed since, you know, we first came to the council and says, hey, we want some pickleball courts, is we started fundraising. We've got $17,000 so far in our restricted account that will be for the purpose of those courts, and really that's for the town's benefit. We've obtained 501c3 status, so anybody that donates to us, you know, it's going to be a tax deductible type arrangement. We've organized ourselves to have, you know, we got a board, got a president, to support the pickleball activities in Ridgway and Uriah County. And we're requesting this special event permit for fundraising. We think the the net revenues that could be coming from one tournament is probably on the order of $3,000 to $4,000. And all that'll be earmarked for our pickleball court design and construction. And, you know, our plans over the next couple of years to have 4 of those events. So we're talking, you know, $10,000 net after the expenses. But to do that, then you have to have a registration fee. So that's one of the contentious points that we've got right now. Want to go to the next slide, Preston, please? That's just what I've been going over right now. And I'll also say that this time last year, we had about 100 members. Now we've got 158 active members in the pickleball club. Next slide, please. So the pros and the cons, and please interrupt if you got any questions as we go. But I get tired of hearing my own voice sometimes. No, it's great because the pros are it's shared funding with the town. You guys have the assets. You guys will help maintain the assets. We're going to play. You know, we're more than 10% of the town population right now is a member of the club. So it's a pretty good asset to have. I mentioned, I don't know that it's a ton really, but the location is pending the master plan review. We've got that whole time frame of let's complete the master plan, see where the best place is to put these courts and what the size is. And then we got the design, construction, the whole bid letting process that we got before we continue. So, you know, we're probably out in another couple of years before we've got courts to play on. And there's always potential objections because we've seen all seen in the news pickleball courts make some funny noises, and some of the design features that they've incorporated in there now are all about keeping the noise down from the pickleball courts. And of course, we need some type of operating agreement. Next slide, please. So highlights of the special event application is, as Pam mentioned, 27th to 24th of September. It's a fundraising tournament. We can expect with the number of courts that we have right now, and given a long weekend, say Friday through Sunday, we could get 150 participants. And most of those would be out of town. So, you know, you get 150 and they bring their significant others, they bring their dogs, they bring their children. That's a pretty good, I guess, economic boost every time you have a tournament. There's been estimates as much as $150 per night per person is spent when you're visiting another town on some of these special events. All the funds that we raise for this is, again, in that restricted fund. It's just the way the structure is for our 501c3. All the funds in that restricted fund go to the benefit of this pickleball group. Next slide, please. And Pam also mentioned some of the issues that we're trying to resolve. You know, to have an event, you need to have some surety that you're going to be able to play on the courts. So you need to be able to secure access to those courts at a specified time. There's probably a little bit of overreach in the application I asked for from Friday afternoon all the way to Sunday evening. You know, when you look at the pickleball court or other tournaments around the area, they typically play from 7 or 8 in the morning to 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So we probably don't need 24/7 for 3 days in a row. There's ways in there, wiggle room, that we can get the schedule that'll work for everybody and still has not had access for the town when we're not actually playing the tournament.
What's your experience? What is your current schedule for your, I guess, schedule beginner times and non-beginner times? What's the current schedule for use of the courts?
Yeah, use of the courts right now is we're on Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the morning. And we change the hours depending on the season, but right now we're playing from 8 to 11 in the morning. And it's there's usually 40 or 50 people down there, you know, playing pickleball.
What's your experience with the traffic on the courts outside of those times, especially on the weekends? It's scheduled weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Any experience with what the volume of other non-pickleball players would be on the use of those courts?
We've had experience on seeing the other tennis players there. Sometimes Tuesday, Thursday, certainly on Saturday, and sometimes on Sunday. They usually take up just the one tennis court, and that's about the extent of their activities there.
Would you be open to being one tennis court available for public use during proposed time slots?
We'd have to see if we could modify the time slots to accommodate the tennis players and, yeah, leave that court open. It might cut down on the size of the tournament. Because as you can imagine, the number of available courts gives you the size of the tournament that you can accommodate. So we've got 4 courts there on the tennis courts and 2 down, and sometimes a third on the basketball court. That gives us the range of around 120 to 150 people in the tournament. If we cut back on 2 courts, it'd probably just prorate that down.
I assume you bump into tennis players routinely in the course of your normal play. Have you, like a better term, developed any relationships with them, or have you polled them as to their acceptance of this proposal? That typically play, they're using the courts that would be using the courts during these times?
No, that's a good question. We haven't said, hey, would you guys mind if we froze like an entire weekend to play? We can certainly reach out because it's usually the same 4 people that we see down there on Sunday, you know.
Okay, thanks.
No, that's a good question.
Would you anticipate that the skate park would be open during this?
Yeah, we don't need the skate park. There could be, and depending on the parking, Kevin, you know, in the application. Yeah, and you may even want to go to the next slide. I think it's got a map there. In the application, we're talking about those green squares being the parking. So to the extent that the skate park uses some of that parking, that may depend on what we might need there for the green squares. But yeah, we wouldn't stop that activity.
Just that I'm sure I know your answer, but the skate park would not be within the alcohol zone.
No, in fact, it was probably a little bit confusing. I used too many green stars down there, but the alcohol would just be at the pavilion. We would kind of restrict it to that. And that way it's away from the skate park.
So there'd be no alcohol going back to the courts or anything like that.
No, from what I've observed that, you know, like the music festivals and stuff, the alcohol is, you know, they're restricted, they put flags around it, that's about it.
So you'd be using some sort of flagging and signs similar to like what we use at the concerts here, no alcohol beyond this point kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think we'd have to do that, and that might be the only penetrations in the ground that we'd have to add to that application that I didn't have in right now.
Right, okay. And then I guess the only other concern I have is the parking. And if there's, I think most of our skate parkers, local ones, are gonna walk there or ride their boards there. But I guess my concern would be is if we've got any baseball kids wanting to play on the weekends and soccer type things. If there's, you know, sounds like they're away from you, you're not asking for that area of the field, but parking, if you're bringing in 100 people, I know there's people who drive their kids there to go to that kind of stuff. So I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point too, Russ, that again, for this tournament to be successful, we need like the reservation of the time on the courts themselves. We'd also need some type of reservation for the activities in the, say, the pavilion and the gazebo. And I know that those are not reservable assets right now, but unless we have surety on some place where we can do the scoring tables and do the registration and stuff like that, you know, it makes it very difficult unless you're going to a Taylor Swift concert and you're going to camp out overnight 3 days before and just kind of grab the area, right?
Not
Or
even-
Grateful Dead.
Maybe it's Taylor Swift.
Questions, do you know, or Pam, do we know if there's any other scheduled events for that time period?
I just made a note of that myself.
There are not, I'm sorry for that. We had the town's park or the Parks, Trails and Open Spaces meeting last night
And Deb mentioned that.
and Deb looked and there was nothing. It's
Even with soccer season?
even with soccer season. There were no games or anything
No.
during that time. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's good. I didn't know the answer.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. I mean, it's far enough out, late September that even though there's nothing on the calendar yet, that doesn't mean there might be some soccer games that want to happen.
Yeah, I think we need to talk to them because they plan their games and we don't.
They don't necessarily, yeah, they don't necessarily run it by us. So
Especially when you're planning people to come here and bring large amounts of people in, so.
So there is no reservation process for any of this typically, is there? Or is-
No.
Not-
We don't have staff for reservation.
That's fine,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just.
So even the pavilion there, we don't have reservations unless somebody rents the concession area. But other than that, it's first come, first served. But we tried to know what's happening with the soccer and the softball. But that doesn't, we always do.
Understood.
So the only potential conflict with soccer or softball would be for the parking, then it's not the actual.
Correct. But that's a pretty big conflict, and that I'm concerned about the green square around Chipeta there in front of the Chipeta Lodge. I mean, I know it's a public parking, but to restrict that so that people attending the lodge or the restaurant or something like that to be locked out of that is going to be impactful to them. Yeah, this is a tricky one. I'm curious, are you renting the concession area, the pavilion for your alcohol sales?
I didn't know it was rentable, but that would be a good way to, I guess, kind of get a reservation in there as we rent it.
Get control of it and
Yeah, that would be able to roll.
keep
And
people.
for us, control means that if you did do that and somebody showed up, you would say, we've already rented this. And work that out with those people, because again, we don't have staff available. That would be able to.
Would it be reasonable, if in fact we decided to do this, to go out in advance and post signs that there was going to be an event out there? Just to make.
They could put a sign up if they chose to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pam, since one of your concerns that you aired was the precedent that it sets. Is it possible?
Well, that's why we're here, because we've never done anything like this, so. That's why we're having this conversation.
Is it possible that if we approve this as a one-time thing and then monitored it, judged its success or failures without creating a precedent, that it doesn't open the door for this to be a regular situation?
Well, I heard Mark say that they're hoping to do this one more time.
Right,
So
we have to use this first one as a test essentially, just to see what issues might arise.
We do have a lot of groups that use the parks and the facilities, all based on the rule. It's for free and open to everybody. And a lot of things have been designed about that. So I would have to say that if there's anything that makes me cautious or apprehensive about this, it's just breaking from that pattern that we might hear about that in the future if this were to go.
How is that similar or different than the use of the soundstage in the park? Is it comparable or is it different?
Not.
Apples and oranges?
yeah, it's not, because the park, if someone's using it, you can still get into the park, but when you take a field, the basketball courts or the tennis courts or the soccer field, or you're eliminating anyone else using those during that time frame. So that's why we're here. Preston and I had a conversation and decided it's something that the council needed to discuss, because we've never had this kind of request before.
Yeah, to be honest, I did that exclusive use of the courts, basketball courts and the tennis courts for 3 days. I actually see it as a potential way to get more people against you in the tennis playing, basketball playing field. I just, like Pam says, we never allow, exclusive reservation of public amenities like that, and I'm still pretty uncomfortable with that. I support you guys' efforts. I understand, it's really good that you're trying to proactively raise funds to make some dedicated pickleball courts in the future. I just am wrestling with if this is the best way to go about it.
Well, like Terry suggested, maybe we need to go, grab those tennis players and say, hey,
I think some outreach would certainly be a good idea.
yep,
I mean, are you gonna have sponsors for this as well? I mean, is Chipeta a likely sponsor?
yeah. Yeah, well, we're gonna try to get as many sponsors as we can to help defray the expenses.
So have you started that process at all?
No, we're kind of waiting on the outcome of the meeting.
Right. Understood.
Did speak with the Parks, Trails and Open Spaces Committee last night and just brought this to their attention, and everybody there said it sounded okay to them, that they understood that it would be blocking off some of the parks, but to make sure that, skate park was accessible, everywhere else was accessible, but committee seemed pretty okay with
That's good to know.
utilizing this space.
It's good to
in
know.
this way.
And the real fee would only be for those playing the tournament.
Yes,
So for those who wanted to come, say possibly learn or watch, probably need to have some sort of little intro talks or something that could be more community minded and, reach out to families or to young kids. That would probably be a neat plus.
oh, yeah, yeah,
I like this. I like the fact that you guys are raising money. And I am generally in support. My only issue is kind of using the town facilities for more of a private entity sort of thing. That's my only. But if you were able to, kids control pickleball for a half an hour or something that was a big community outreach, then would probably all be convinced of it.
yeah, and that might be a good growth spur for what we're doing with the 4-Ager program right now.
Totally.
Because we're arranging that to work with the kids and introduce them to pickleball.
That's cool. That's awesome.
If your numbers are correct and there's 40 to 50 people that show up, that's your typical events. If there's 4 to 5 people that show up periodically for tennis, that's a 10-to-1 ratio. I wonder if there's a way to poll the people that that routinely play tennis, see what they feel about it, or 2, maybe have a window, 1 or 2 windows in your total time slots where it is open to the public and not totally reserved for the tournament.
Yes,
Have a card out that might satisfy the 1 to 10 people that would normally be pissed off that they can't get access to the fields.
no, I understand that. Well, and I got the tournament director is here tonight, so we'll have to talk with her and see what kind of input we got as far as. Because it does start out with a big boom in the morning, usually like everybody's playing up, and then as people lose matches.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Since this is a conversation, not necessarily a question, but it seems to me 10 years down the line, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line, the thing we're lacking right now is the mechanism with staff to do reservations and management. And granted, it is a private effort to do something, but having been somebody that grew up going to ultimate Frisbee tournaments in different towns and lacrosse tournaments and in different places where there were, school lands and town lands where that stuff took place. I feel like I do think the onus is on us too to come up with that mechanism right now, because we're going to see all sorts of other things like this, especially when, if the pump track ends up in there. then that's also gonna beg other events and gatherings. So I feel like this is a ripe opportunity right now, given that it's not just a short-term one-off. You're gonna have multiple festivals and gatherings, rallies, but also because we're gonna have to do it in all these, with all these other sports or gatherings there as well. So I feel like collectively, I know it's adding stuff to all of our plates, but figuring out how to collaborate with Chipeta and talking about the parking there and making sure they have access and reaching out to the soccer coaches and softball coaches and, you know, you're here early, so you're ahead of the curve in terms of scheduling. And I don't struggle with the notion of reserving it for a private effort like this. You know, even in media, if a film has to block off a street and you use a special use permit and you put up those signs well ahead of time announcing that the streets will be cleared and this stuff is going to be reserved. And we're not a giant municipality. And there's a lot of times that I'm out there and there's not another person on that field on a Saturday. So I feel more comfortable bringing vitality into it and figuring out ways to make it happen, both with our mechanisms and with their outreach efforts.
And if we improve this as a one-off rather than a continuum, this is a huge learning opportunity for us to see what we're not considering right now, what the pitfalls are, what the successes are, things we didn't consider.
Okay, it sounds like I'm hearing consensus that there's interest in letting this potentially go forward. The things I'm hearing to be asked of these guys is to reach out to the tennis, basketball crowd and at least, very least, let them know the plans and find out, you know, just kind of take a pulse of how they would react. Reach out to the Chipeta owners and make sure they're aware at least that you're talking about taking up a good portion of the parking in front of their place on the public street.
Maybe encouraging people to park in the larger lot first.
The farther lot down by the softball fields.
Yeah.
Utilizing that space and then the other parking lot and then the street parking, I
Yeah.
think would be a good mechanism to try to prevent any issues with Chipeta.
Yeah.
And then I agree with that, put
Yes.
people in the big parking lot, but do we also need to do some sort of check with the ball fields? The soccer.
Yeah, that's-
players.
And I'll do that. I'll
Okay.
see what happens.
Check and make sure there's no
And
games.
potentially leave them some parking as well, just in the event that they have something else going on. So,
And consider possibly a public open window in the middle.
That, it sounds like after 4, there could be opportunity for tennis to.
Yeah, and that's where the discussion with the tennis players might come and say, can you move your morning play, maybe potentially an afternoon or something during that weekend? And encourage everybody to go out in the mountains and look at the leaves. It's into September, right?
Stop for beer discounts.
Oh, yeah,
Even along the lines of putting some signage up at the courts, something along those lines.
yeah.
Saying, please contact me or whoever, tournament director, saying we're in the works of trying to figure out how to make this work for our tournament in September. Please, you know, reach out if you have any thoughts or concerns. So it's just, yeah, just so it's more public and anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sounds pretty clear, I think.
I'm wondering if there's anyone in the audience that wanted to speak.
Oh, good point. Yeah,
Rusty Weaver from Ridgway.
come on up.
So John, you know, I come from the tennis world originally
Mhm.
and have transitioned over to pickleball. I do both. I play tennis and pickleball because they're both really fun. And I know all the tennis players because there's only like 5.
I think there's more than that, but
There's like, yeah, on a regular basis.
Right.
There's 4 or 5. Jane, you know, I used to play with all of them, and I don't think that it would be a big deal for them to give up a weekend of playing tennis. I mean, it's especially since we'd be ending the tournament around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, nobody really wants to play in the afternoon anyway. It's too hot. We're too old. Pickleball is an old people sport, and so that's I wanted to just alleviate some of your concerns
Okay.
about pissing off the pickleball. I mean, the tennis community, because they're kind of really the reason I switched over to pickleball is because there is no tennis community. You know, that's the reality of it.
Okay.
And as far as basketball goes, you know, you see kids down there every once in a while, but
It's not a huge.
it's not, there's over 160 senior pickleball players in our league.
And you guys are serious.
And we are serious, and I'm telling you, if you want to keep the senior athletic community healthy in this town, support pickleball. It's a terrific sport.
Okay.
And
So,
according to a recent article, the medical.
yeah. It's apolitical too, which is a huge thing. It brings people together that of different persuasions that get together and play together, because we don't allow politics on the court. So it's really an awesome sport. So that's
Okay. Thanks, Russ. Yeah. Anyone else?
Well, I want to follow that because, thank you.
Yeah.
I've heard the word used private a couple of
Lisa?
times.
You need to give your name to Pam, so for the record.
Hi, Lisa Gottlieb. I'm one of the board members. And we have consistently throughout time always gone to the tennis players and created a nice relationship so that we are in a talking way. And I think the outreach that we've all suggested and spoke about here is important, and we will absolutely do. And with your input as well. And just to go on, which I don't think I really need to too much, because we do understand that pickleball is the fastest growing sport in North America, unprecedented, and that we have this children's program coming up in the summer months, and to include something like that at the beginning of the tournament would be beautiful. But those of us on the board, and it's a really skeleton crew, and thank you. All the work that you have done. We're behind it to build community. That's really the aim. And I think that in this country, we've watched that happen. And I feel that specifically here, because it is Ridgway, it's a small community. Everyone cares so deeply. That is our intention, is to continue to build community and have it be a real open space to share in. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Anyone else? Okay, anybody on Zoom? Don't see any hands. So, help me out here, Pam and Preston. We don't need to approve this tonight. We directed the applicants to go back and resolve some questions. You guys are you're gonna look into things like whether there's soccer coming up, or would you like it
Do
to?
that, up to council, what's your time frame again? It would need to come back to you again if we. do
Well, what's the feeling of council then? Do you want to like conditionally approve it?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards it. And I think it also meets a number of objectives in our master plan across the board for different goals. There is health and community and thinking
Okay.
outside and all the various things. that-
I would conditionally approve it
As a
to
one-time.
allow these guys to kind of start their planning.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is a conditional approval with the conditions basically being that the applicants talk to the Mole tennis community, make sure they're all on board with it, talk to the GP to make sure they're aware of potential impacts. Pam's gonna review potential soccer field conflicts,
Understand basketball concerns as well.
basketball concerns, and Russ and Terry both mentioned that this would be kind of semi-formally a test run to see how it worked. It wouldn't be like this is approved, it's going to be approved for every other tournament you want to do. Depends on how it goes, but it sounds like you guys got it pretty well dialed, and if it goes as well as we hope, then it shouldn't be a problem going forward. Okay.
Did you want to address the time frame?
Oh, right. So, we're asking the applicant to amend the permit from the 8 p.m. Friday to, what was it?
Well, I think you were going to just start on Saturday. You didn't
5
really
p.m.
have-
Friday to 8 p.m. Sunday. Instead of that, it would be,
7 Saturday or something.
yeah, and actually earlier than that, so that if anybody wanted to play tennis after 3 or 4 could. I guess what I suggest is we ask the applicant to go back and come up with a slightly modified time schedule so that it would allow for some tennis.
So we're gonna accommodate activities before and after our play.
Right.
Yeah, and that may spill over into some Friday, say some afternoon, so I could still have some preliminary matches on Friday, but it'll be restricted hours and not 72 hours in a row.
Does that work for you?
Just up to the council, so.
Okay. All right.
What I'm hearing you say is though that you're talking about that blocking of the courts would start early Saturday morning and end sometime like 3 or 4.
Friday afternoon.
It-
For
it'll go
preliminary
from
play,
5
correct?
p.m.
Yeah, we-
Friday
So we can get some
till
more.
dark, the same Friday.
Oh, the tournament's gonna be on Friday.
Yes, the preliminary match is Friday evening.
Oh, okay.
Also have good eyesight.
Yeah, I mean, that time of year starts to get dark a little sooner. So 5 to 7 or 8 on Friday, 7 to 4 on Saturday, and 7 to 4 on Sunday. Something like
Yeah, something like that.
I'll move to approve this based on that loose set of contingencies.
Second.
All right, motion made by Cherry, second by Polly. Any other conversation, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
And you want me to sit with you sometime then over the next couple of days and redo that permit or?
Yeah, sure. Or you can take a stab at it and come back and change things if you need to.
All right.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Clark.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for coming.
All right, that takes us to our 2 public hearings for tonight. We have, and just to remind everybody, public hearings in the state of Colorado require a kind of quasi judicial process where we hear the details of the application. We hear from the applicant if they're present, then open it up for public comment. If there is some, we take that with the commenters giving us their name and address. If there is none, we close. At the end of that, we close public comment. So there are 2 things. Item number 10 is application for restaurant liquor license from Original Outlaw LLC. Member Paul Cho, DB at 8th Place, location 615 Clinton. Another one of your name, right, Pam?
Yes, well, the town's received an application for a restaurant liquor license for Chase Restaurant, which is now owned by Paul Cho. And the premises is still the same location on Clinton Street. So we're here for a public hearing for that application for that new license. The applicant also wishes to use the premises in the front of the restaurant and possibly put tables out there. I believe his intention is for it to be more like when people are waiting than if they'll be eating there. So that's where that service would happen. He's also asking for a concurrent review, which means that the application goes to the state at the same time that the council reviews it. It also allows the applicant to request the town issue a temporary permit if they need be. So, yeah, that's where we're at in the process. I know Paul's not here. I think he's out of town. Unless he's on the call in it.
Okay, so the applicant's not here to answer your questions. Does anybody up here on council have questions for Pam or staff about anything to do with this? Pretty straightforward.
Nothing until we hear the specifics about the timing and the actual use. I mean, as far as putting tables out front, stuff like that. So,
Well, you've already proved that. That was your other item.
well, you just brought up though, whether it was for people waiting or people dining.
I believe that's his intention is to use that area for people who are waiting. So when the premises gets licensed, it will be for the restaurant, the patio to the east of the restaurant, and the sidewalk in front of the restaurant, not the whole sidewalk, but part of that sidewalk, so he could put small tables out there.
So
And
you
if
can
we
have
prove
like
this,
Similar to what they're doing at the Vision.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, like provisions or, the Charbonneau. I don't think his intention is to add more tables so that he has more tables than he already does on the patio area. It didn't sound like that's what he was looking for.
Probably just want people that have Bloody Marys while they wait for the table.
Yeah.
For breakfast.
Exactly.
All right, I will, open this up to public comment. Anybody here in the audience or on Zoom have questions or comments on this application? Going once, going twice. All right, so I'll close public comment, bring it up, back up here for deliberation. So just so we're clear, if we approve this, they can do tables up front or not. They basically have, and I don't know, it's
Well,
probably
you already approved that. You already approved the
true.
revocable permit, which is revocable. You could pull the permit at any time. And the applicant has to meet the insurance requirements before they'll issue that. They also can't have the full sidewalk.
Right.
There's access that's addressed in that permit. But what it allows is, it allows when the application is made to license not only the restaurant inside, but the outdoor patio to the east and part of that sidewalk. So that an alcoholic beverage could move from inside the restaurant to the patio, or the patio to that part of the sidewalk and back into the restaurant. Within that, those.
Just want to make sure that was clear.
I have no issues with it. I think it's a great idea. I'd love to go to Kate's and have Bloody Mary on a Sunday morning. That feels like a good thing to me.
Annual retreat.
I'll meet you there.
All right,
Are we on the council side yet, or are we still?
yes, okay.
Yeah, I really don't have an issue.
Yeah.
More power to them.
Not a problem.
Okay.
To approve this, the application for restaurant liquor license.
Seconded.
All right, motion by Terry, seconded by Polly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 11, emergency ordinance number 04-2023, repealing emergency ordinance number 01-2022, and the temporary moratorium on acceptance of development application.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So, as you said, this is an emergency ordinance number 04-2023. You should look familiar from last month, but now that the project to update the town's land use regulations, we refer to it as Chapter 7 updates, has concluded, and those updates take effect in a couple days' time. Staff is recommending this emergency ordinance and formally repealing the temporary moratorium that was enacted by emergency ordinance number 01-2022. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Preston? Pretty straightforward.
This is just an emergency ordinance, so it doesn't continue on
for another 30 days.
sometime. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm good with this.
I'm good with it.
Anything you want to add, Bo?
No, we discussed this at the last meeting, and direction was to bring this back as emergencies.
Right. All right, I need to open up for public comment. Anybody either on Zoom or in the room have any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, I will close public comment. Put it back up here. For deliberation, seems pretty straightforward.
Seeing we've been through this several times before, essentially, I'll go ahead and move to approve emergency ordinance number 04-2023.
Second.
All right, motion made by Russ, seconded by JT. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to policy matters. Item number 12, the Ridgway Area Chamber of Commerce presentation on activities and financial status. Ashley, welcome. And Catherine.
Gonna join us.
Welcome, ladies.
Okay. So we've put together a slideshow. I've never done this before, so Catherine's gonna give us your shares.
Catherine's got it.
Yes. What's going on?
There you go.
Alrighty, well, thanks for having us. So this is our Ridgway Area Chamber annual report. We do our annual reports in February, so this is just a follow-up for 6 months into particularly this year, 2023. I'm Ashley Perkins, I'm the executive director. This is Catherine, my PR and marketer for the chamber. So again, thanks for having us. Currently, the chamber now has 80 members. This is a 12% increase from this time last year. 22 are new members, 58 are renewed members. You can see kind of the breakdown of our different paid membership tiers, gold through bronze. We did introduce our basic membership this year. We have 6 unpaid members. It's a free membership that have joined the chamber. Total revenue for 2023 is just under 4,500, excuse me, after 2023. And since then, we actually gained a couple more members. So up to date, it's probably about 82 right now. All right, web analytics. So I did a comparison chart. What I did was I compared July 2021 to July 2022. And then I used those numbers and compared it against July 2022 to July 2023. So you got 2 years that I'm comparing against. And those 2 years in a comparison, we have gained over 63,000 new users. So that is new IP addresses that went on to the ridgwaycolorado.com website. And then what you'll see in the top left or top right, it's actually the title is actually switched. That's our human error, but you can see that the Ridgway Colorado Google search has increased over 214% since the previous year. Meaning people who go on Google, Bing, Yahoo, whatever search engine out there, it has increased substantially from 16,000 to 53,000. So that being said, the keyword Ridgway Colorado is #1. I can say True Grit is still #2. So still remaining true to that. 3 is actually Ridgway Colorado events, which is actually our 3rd page right now, very hot page. I can show that later. And then the 4th top search is Orbis Hot Springs. That's understandable. Bottom right corner is the sessions. So a session is how long a user stays on a website. Over 30 seconds, session reported. Under 60 seconds, and some humans do have a shorter attention span. So it's actually pretty impressive that they're over that session over 60 seconds. That being said, we have increased from 60,000 sessions to 77,000. So overall, we have seen a substantial increase last year from July 2022 to July 2023 versus the 2021 to 2022. All good stuff. Social media analytics. We actually created a Facebook page just to streamline social media more. It's a lot easier to have one platform to view all analytics. So that's what we decided to do. We created a Facebook page called Ridgway Colorado. We created it mid-May, and within 2 months, we have gained over 660 followers. It's pretty good, organic. This is all great news. And our Ridgway Colorado, we have gained over 800 followers. So we have been doing really good progress, and you can actually see, kind of wanted to point this out just because I'm a little proud, but you can see down here, this bottom right corner, the spike right here, that's when I was hired. So that's when I joined the chamber. I'm proud, but I do honest work. I do true content, real-time content. I do the best I can to promote what I can within my capacity. I'll also just be openly honest that I took a pay cut for this, and I love doing it. I want to continue doing this. I live here. I'm a local. I know what it feels like. I want to market it responsibly and accordingly. That being said, Ashley and I would like to work on a better communication with the community to better market all organizations. It's a work in progress. We wear a lot of hats, but we have good intention. And I hope the town council knows that. And we even got feedback. I mean, we get various feedback, but this was my favorite, bottom left corner here. This person just messaged and she said, this account and content you've been putting out there has been wonderful the last few months. Just wanted to say thank you for all the goodness this local is loving it. So I love what I do and the numbers show it.
It's Catherine. So back in May, we also put out a business survey feedback. This was kind of at the encouragement of some town folks and some other locals in the community, just to kind of gauge how we were doing as a chamber in our marketing. So we pulled a couple different segments from some of the feedback that we got, all very valuable. What else do you think the chamber could be doing better in regards of providing support for the community? To me, this kind of ties along with the question of the last meeting. What does the chamber actually do? Our feedback, local commented and said, do actual events, support other organizations, working with other organizations and actually running and staffing the business. So to kind of pick out the first comment, actual events, as you can see there, we have quite a few events that we actually organize and participate in. This year we did our 6th youth volunteer and career fair. We had some help from Voyager in this. We always work with working students to organize it. It was a huge success, so much fun. Catherine spearheaded our first annual Earth Day community cleanup that we not partnered, but organized, coincided with the town of Ridgway for your guys' dumpster cleanup. We hosted business after hours at Chipeta back in June. We're organizing our golf tournament again this year, and we're in the 3rd year organizing, supporting the community with the wildlife. We partner with youth frequently on certain things. We can get more into that here. Tara helps us with making sure we have all of our local events listed. We also are working on a walking map, which we have to kind of share today. Actually running and staffing a visitor center. I have actually taken that under my role, speaking of many hats, since we lost our coordinator 2 years ago. We're kind of rebuilding after COVID. I currently have 5 volunteers and staff. We're open Wednesday through Sundays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's been very consistent this year. And those were the hours, same as last year. At this point in the year, we have over 300 visitors. And my volunteers and staff, it's been great. Really amazing.
And then on the bottom left, you'll see our local events. This is what I was talking about. This is our 3rd ranked page now. It was at the very bottom. And now it's at the top. We do our best we can. I think it would be a good effort to reach out to the community and let them know, hey, it's a two-way street. Please let us know too about your events because we're at a limited capacity, limited funds. So you got the event, send it my way. Easy peasy. So we'll work on that. And then this is another suggestion we got. I love this idea. It is, what ideals do you have for the chamber to get increased participation and membership and volunteer involvement? An actual shop local campaign. This features up-to-date listings of hours, closures, and who offers what. Updated info about what's open and what's closed in off-season. And we actually did do that, so I am going to see if I can share that. Share. There you go. This is what I did. This is a directory, pretty much, but we're going to call it Shop Local just to make it more fun. And you can see it's actually on the top right corner as well. All the way up there, we'll see Shop Local. And just as a reminder, our website, we get over 3 million visitors a year. So this is something very substantial, very good feedback. And it took me some time to do it, but it was well done. You can see the hours here, and there's no like favoritism. It's just what I come across, plugged it in, and there we go. So there's still some work to be done, but I think this will be really substantial because every single chamber website that I've come across, Steamboat, Aspen, they all have a directory. And this now also provides the hours, the address, the website, and then what they provide. Let me go back to my slideshow, just somewhere. There we go. Excuse me, guys. One minute, so sorry.
Good old technology.
Yeah, do we have like a computer expert here?
Like a Mac doctor or something like that.
You can see this, so, okay.
I can link it to my watch if you want.
There you
All right, going back, and like Ashley touched base on, we did do the walking map, and per Ridgway View's recommendations, we did do an event side now, so there's more substantial content for the user to go to. And all these QR codes go to the website, which is good to increase the sessions, the user, IP addresses, all that kind of stuff. We also did a QR code. Yeah. And we plan on walking to the businesses and giving them this QR code to put on the inside of their window, and it goes to the Ridgway, Colorado website. Again, just to help increase engagement with our website. People love QR codes now. So. Great, thank you.
And thank you, Sarah, for all your help with those. On both of us. So the events and our walking map is huge for us. So despite all those other slides, other achievements and things that we want to kind of point out that we were successful in for 2023, January to July, again, for 6 months. Under partnerships and collaborations, we are so proud to be the recipients of the Colorado State Outdoor Rec Grant to develop a gravel adventure field guide for Uncompahgre, West End area of the state. That was a project spirited by our board secretary, Tony Chikawa. So we're really excited about that. Other recognition, the Chamber, as well as Fuse partners with the Colorado Creative Corridor Group. That's about 6 different communities that try to draw in visitation for creatives. We were featured in Colorado Life magazine for their May and June issue. In regards to Colorado Tourism Office opportunities, I recently joined the San Juan Skyway Byway Committee. That's an awesome group of people in rural Colorado towns in tourism leadership roles, all trying to streamline responsible tourism messaging. It's been really exciting, really interesting. As mentioned, we released our basic membership free option. We also now have a downloadable visitor guide, which was not a thing prior to 2023. We streamlined our social media and QR code. It's also a win. Tourism management, that's a huge role of what a chamber's focus is now in regards to tourism. The Colorado Tourism Office understands this. No longer are we trying to drag everyone into these beautiful areas. We're trying to inform them and help give them the tools to do so responsibly. That means visiting the local businesses and adventuring out into the wilderness with an understanding of how to do that in the right way. So we did a training with the No Trace experts this spring, the U.S. Forest Service, and Area Mountain Rescue. Also did volunteer and staff training with this information, and we're streamlining our social media to also include this messaging. That is a big project that we really want to focus on for 2024. Catherine and I want to develop a Respect Ridgway campaign specifically toward that drive. Again, enhancing and streamlining our online messaging as well as our email messaging. I plan to join the Prepare for Colorado Coalition. We want to continue to build upon the positive foundation I think we've set with the town and the community this year. We'd like to renew the contract for benefit of responsible marketing and sustainable promotion for all of the local community. Again, just kind of want to keep increasing our membership, establish a complete board of directors is another goal, post more business after hours, and just continue along on the products that we previously mentioned. And again, develop that gravel adventure guide for 2024. So that's all I think we have for you tonight.
Thank you. That's impressive. Great presentation. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Council have questions for these guys.
Quick question, just on the shop local part of it, scrolling through, it's great, a lot of real estate, visual real estate for all the different businesses. Do you have to be a member of the
Yeah.
chamber?
You have to have a storefront because it's kind of like hand in hand with the walking map. You know, how do you go to a business that's not present? Pretty much. So no, this is inclusive. This is for like
Everything.
yeah, I'm doing the best I can at least. I believe we have over 66 storefronts so far on that, and my goal is to reach out to the community through Facebook. That's the best channel I can think of right now, and just ask them for their feedback. If I'm missing out on a storefront, please let me know, because I may not be as plugged in as some of them are, or something like that. So
Do you do any, I know I've mentioned this before, but any actually door to door going, go throughout town and stick your head in the door and introduce yourself and ask them about whether they're members, and have you been doing that?
Over the course of the last month, Catherine and I have gone to a lot of the businesses in Ridgway. We have some Ridgway members as well, so we've checked in with them. And we've also carried through and visited a lot of our members. We're starting with our members and then just kind of checking in, seeing how they're doing, because obviously they've supported us throughout the years, so we're kind of reintroducing ourselves if they don't know us, kind of networking in that regard, and hope to continue to do that as a huge.
I think that's another great way to build your reach, is going to those places that may not know about you or may have decided that you don't have anything to offer for what they would pay, or they may not even be aware that you have a free membership. So I think trying to get into all businesses is essential.
right, we're doing the best we can. We visited, like, for example, like Kind Castle, they're not a member, but we stopped by, we said, hey, we introduced ourselves. We asked if they'd be interested in becoming a basic member. And then if they like to develop that relationship, we would provide them benefits for being a chamber member. We're not like saying, join us for money, you know, like it's just inclusive as much as we can. Ashley and I are really compatible with going to the businesses in person. And that's just traditional marketing too. Like you just go in store and you say, hi, nice to meet you, read the vibes of the room, and then just go from there. It's so much better than email marketing.
Absolutely.
Phone calls. So doing the best we can on that.
We're enjoying it. So thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Thank you.
It's really nice to get to know.
I'll piggyback on JT's comment that your shop local page is good. It's nice. It's like,
Thank you.
it's colorful. It's very inclusionary.
Yeah.
Businesses that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So
Working on it.
that's awesome. I do have a small question.
Yeah.
Catherine, you mentioned that you and Ashley were developing ideas for better communication with businesses in town and organization.
Mhm.
Do you have any examples or anything to touch on that, or?
So far, I like to put a face to a name right now, meet them in person, because email marketing is the least effective tool right now. So I try not to do that. I think I'm not going to read an email I get from a random person personally. And that's something too I've been really bringing to the chamber is UX behavior. How do the users respond? You know, understanding them, putting yourself in their shoes. And I think the first step is to meet them in person and say, can I have a good contact name? And so that when I do send them an email, they'll be like, oh, I remember her. I'll open this email. And then we'll go from there. I like to set a deadline for maybe the end of summer to meet all these businesses and just get that communication channel and then add them to this email platform and say, hey, we stopped by, just wanted to check in, see what your hours are for the fall, what are your what are your shoulder season activity like, and all that fun stuff. Do you have any other suggestions?
Oh, none yet.
Okay.
I just. was
Let me
curious.
know. Okay, cool.
But I do have one quick question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you market a few businesses in Uray. I'm curious, do you collect any money from the city of Uray yearly for budgets or?
I do not collect any finance.
Well,
I think they just like to be part of it,
of course.
you know? We're implicit, right?
Butt in on that question. So we've been talking about our Montrose businesses that we want to pull into the chamber as well. And one reason why we pull in either Montrose or Uray are businesses that we don't have here in Ridgway. You know, for instance, as far as we know, we don't have insurance agents here in Ridgway. You know, if we do, we want to pull them in, but we need to like help our businesses and community connect to insurance agents in our nearby communities. And so that's the same with Uray. And, you know, in Uray, even though we're focusing or we would like the businesses that aren't repeated here, of course, since we're opening up to Uray, we will get other businesses as well that are repeated here. But the focus is just having a fuller menu of businesses to relate to for our visitors as well as our community.
Thank you, Tanya.
Somebody else? Comments, questions?
Are you gonna include, I'm assuming it's gonna happen again this year, the Wild West Fest?
Yes.
I'm not seeing that.
Right.
They decided not to do the Wild West Fest
Oh.
this year.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Yep.
I just noticed it went on the address page. All right,
I appreciate that.
yeah. I don't know that I've looked through all this before, but I looked through the website quite a bit today. I like what you've done. There's a lot of good references in there. Point to a lot of different things, so I'm assuming that's relatively new.
It is. It's a huge work in progress. The website kind of dialing it to what has been suggested and to us currently.
Cool,
Again, we're all kind of new staff and our board is pretty new at
sure.
this point in the game. So we're kind of refreshing everything and it does take some time. So we appreciate that and we appreciate all the feedback.
Good
Yeah,
work.
and also
A lot of
your
great information.
And I did really appreciate the blurb of like, leave no trace, you have to be a responsible member to come here, like.
Yes.
Don't be a jerk, basically is what it says, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Exactly, yeah.
Slow down, enjoy.
Yeah.
No, I think that's gonna be okay.
Is that gonna place think outside?
Don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
That goes.
Think outside, don't be a jerk.
Perfect. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Keep up the good work. Okay, so that takes us to item number 13, discussion and direction regarding tourism promotion and marketing services for the town of Ridgway. Discuss Preston and Tara's name on it.
We'll let Tara take the reins, but we'll piggyback on the last time. So.
Yeah, sounds good.
You have the memo to pull up. You have the memo to pull up, or should I pull it on? So you had a memo from Preston and I about the relationship with the chamber and the decision in front of the council around what to do around how we best implement tourism promotion for Ridgway. We have a 3-year contract with the Ridgway Area Chamber of Commerce that ends at the end of this year. And so the question is kind of how to proceed and what sort of guidance would you give the staff on how best to fill this role. We use lot funds for this. As you know, those have increased over the years. We have a little bit of background here, starting back in 1992 at $1 per night for lodging, going up to $2 a night, continuing on. We're currently in a situation of 70% of the proceeds going from the lodging tax going to tourism promotion and development. And I know that one of your next items is to discuss potential new allocations of those funds and potential new rates for the taxpayers. But at this moment, this agenda item is really about what to do with the contract. So Preston and I discussed it and really identified 3 potential options. There may be more that we haven't identified, but these were the 3 that we could see that we wanted to put before council for consideration or amendment or rethinking, if that's what you choose. The ones that we saw were 1, to renew the professional services agreement with the Ridgway Area Chamber of Commerce. You have a really good taste for what they're doing now and what they've been doing lately from their presentation. Thank you for that great update. The second one would be to open up a competitive process for kind of open bid. So that anybody in the community who might want to put forward a proposal to do tourism promotion for the town of Ridgway could have an opportunity to put a proposal forward to be reviewed by an ad hoc committee and a recommendation made to council. Obviously, Chamber would be one of the groups that would be welcome and encouraged to put forward a proposal, but it would also be open to the broader community. And then a third option that we considered, we're not necessarily advocating any of these, these are just ones that we've identified, would be to bring tourism promotion in-house by hiring staff to do all or part of what contractors have done up until now. To clarify, I think that Ashley and Catherine did do a good job at this, but just the main roles are to operate the tourism, the visitor center, and then to do the tourism promotion, information, that type of stuff. Whatever direction the council chooses to go in this, staff do have a recommendation that we actually rethink the professional services agreement to add more clear deliverables, time-bound, measurable deliverables. I think that whether it's the chamber or another organization, I think that the effort will be well served by clear, measurable outcomes. I think we've been in a lot of dialogue over the last several months around what's would best serve the community, and the chamber's been responsive to feedback and suggestion. And at times it's been clear that clearer outline of what's expected would help all of that go more smoothly and help everybody be more successful. So that's the staff's recommendation, regardless of which direction the council chooses to go. And then I think also, like the chamber has really started to pivot, I think, in a direction of being inclusive of businesses outside of just membership. That's really important. We feel if we're getting public dollars, the sense is from the staff's perspective that this should have a public benefit and not be a kind of a private, collection of paid membership that benefits from the public dollars. And so that's something else that feels like it should be clearly laid out and have it be clear around what sort of events or activities or businesses could be included in promotion and which ones potentially wouldn't be. I think that again will help the success of the entire effort to just have clarity. And then also the program that I operate and do collaborate with the chamber and other organizations, the Main Street program and the Creative District, it would be helpful to take some time to delineate how that partnership can best work and where there are places of, kind of who's in what lane, just to make sure that we're using public resources most effectively. So that's what we have, and
Great.
Open it up for your consideration and happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, Terry. I like the idea of the metrics and deliverables or KPIs, we're going to follow. If we choose to renew the existing contract, can it be modified to 1 year instead of a 3-year term in order to go through the process of evaluation based on the metrics that you put into the new contract?
Yeah, absolutely. The chamber's been doing this for a while, I think since like 2016, I'm making that up, it's been like 2017.
Something like that, yeah.
And it used to be terms with 1 year. And in 2021, that was, 2021, that was changed to a 3-year. So yeah, just to be clear, at the tail end of that 3-year term, and on a fundamental level, regardless of who is performing the work and performance level, this is a hugely warranted and important conversation. So I hope everyone recognizes that, appreciates that. So with that thought, it can certainly be a 1-year term.
It seems that they're clearly on a positive trajectory, and with the conclusion of some concrete metrics, it might be, in my opinion, good to have a 1-year term so we can evaluate the process before we make a decision to open this up to an RFP or some other, or even in-house, the other 2 options. just to maybe to give time to consider those other two options. Or where to flush the line.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with Terry on that. I think the chamber's made a big move here of late. I'm kind of curious to see how that continues to progress. And I like the idea of going with this 1 year, kind of, especially once we revise the services agreement. And making sure the chamber's okay with all that. We're not asking them to do things that they're not. So, supportive of that.
Most importantly to me, is I would like to see our money, the town's money, spent locally. And so the idea of having an outside firm handle marketing, and that doesn't really appeal to me at all.
In terms of going the RFP route, opening it up to out of town.
Marketing, yeah, exactly.
I agree.
I would like it to either be spent through the chamber or exploring the option of bringing this in-house. And with the mindset of creating a position under Terra, if this still sort of jives, maybe it does, maybe not, allowing us to control that message and then using the leftover marketing money that we would have left over from paying for this position to pass around to businesses and organizations. One could be the chamber, one could be Skajoring, one could be all of the organizations that actively bring people and effectively market and create the scene that we have here in Ridgway. This is all just briefly chatted about. This is a discussion tonight, correct? Not a decision. I think that's worth really exploring and talking about, to be able to control our message, to be as there is a lot of work on Terra's behalf in communicating with the chamber going through, and might that time be better spent with somebody in the office next to you? Does any of this sound attractive?
I'm going to defer to Preston as the town manager and staff in here.
I mean, this is an uncomfortable position for all, or a conversation on some levels. So we do have to talk kind of outside the box. And, it's, so is there time spent having is there town time spent having to work through another organization that could be efficiently minimized if we just kept it in-house?
Absolutely. You have pros and cons, right? But that's, of course, certainly a really interesting idea that could be further explored. The structure is something we would need to spend some time on. Terry and I were talking about that earlier today. And come back to council on if the direction is to further explore bringing it in-house in the way that you're describing. But yes, sure, there's going to be some efficiencies and some benefits to having that in-house, someone sitting in a chair in town hall or working somewhat close by as a dedicated full-time equivalent. But on the other side of things, the chamber's not too far away as an organization, and for the most part, they're easily accessible and seen around town everywhere. So we got that too. We're still a small town, small community. I can appreciate where you were going about not opting for the option about requests for proposals, which is why we're doing this here, not just piggybacking with our presentation, but in the event that was the option that council wanted to pursue, we need some time to conduct that events at the end of the year. So, but based on initial conversation, it doesn't seem right now that that's the option that everyone wants to go. But I'm rambling, but it's hard to answer, but that's certainly something we could further evaluate as far as bringing it in-house and trying to create a structure for that.
And I think the staff time is required regardless, right? Whether it's supervision or whether it's collaborative with oversight of a contractor. And in each case, clear deliverables will make it all much more effective. That's my main comment.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of tightening up that deliverables piece because It's kind of vague at the moment.
And as long as we're, having a broad discussion here, I'd like to revisit something that was on the table prior to COVID, which is exploring a county-wide Chamber of Commerce. Or whatever you want to call it, but more of a collaborative entity that covered both the city of Uray and the town of Ridgway and the county to some extent. It just seems like we're a team here in the county, and it would make a whole lot of sense to try and figure out a way to have an entity that embraced all of that and helped coordinate calendars and all of that. It's a big ask. It'd be a big thing to take on, and it came really close to happening. Like I said, right before COVID, right before Mayor Nelson's term, actually, in Uray, but something that would be interesting to explore.
But as it relates to the marketing and promotion, it seems like the two communities have very different marketing messages. We don't promote it, cheapers or ice
Yeah, we
creamers.
have overlapping,
There's some,
but
there's some dining.
If nothing else, just a formal liaison.
Yeah.
And forum topic for one of the dinners.
Yep.
Yeah, there's two different, there's personality, cultural differences, economic development objectives that are different. See, but I think nurturing the communication about short-term, long-term objectives of both towns and the impact on the county.
Right, and a lot of you may not know, actually, already there's the quarterly phone call we have between the Montrose tourism promotion people, the city of Uray, the town of Ridgway, organized. It was Kaylee Roten, is that her name? Was with the city of Montrose. She's now with the city of Uray, and she still kind of spearheads the thing, and that's been really helpful. It's just good to have a discussion about overall doing, and kind of keeps us all on the same page. So that's informal way that's already happening.
Do you think that has legs with the city of Uray?
Pardon me?
Do you think that that sort of collaborative effort kind of has legs with the city of Uray? That
Potentially, I do. At least just, on a overall kind of communicative basis. Yeah.
In terms of enhancing the visitor experience, I think that it could be very helpful.
that's who wins,
Yeah.
Right.
isn't it?
That's our end user for all of these and the residents, just knowing what's going on and having one place to look would be really ideal. I know there's a lot of collaboration that's been spearheaded a lot by WEHOC and Malcolm Alliance in the arts and entertainment space to try and have more coordinated programming and calendaring.
Right.
There's a start there.
That's just one small
And
slice
one
of
segment.
the pie, but that's a good example.
Well, and regardless of the delays and the transportation issues that we've got right now, we will have that solid link going back and forth physically of people transporting back and forth. So that becomes a space where chamber can engage as well across, with the town, different cities as well.
Could potentially be an outcome that could be listed in the deliverables of developing those partnerships and relationships and proposing something more systemic. One question I have is, does anyone know if it's ever been considered to have a county level lodging tax?
I don't believe so.
Just curious. Maybe that could help find something more systemic and long term.
Is there any?
Jake, did you hear that? There he is.
Yeah, it just takes me a second to get to the phone. We're actually considering that. Are you able to hear me all right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, we're actually considering that next year. The state laws for lodging tax are different for counties than they are for municipalities. And so we have to, if we want to do a lodging tax, we have to run that in an even year election. So we can't do that this year. But that effort is really being spearheaded by the child care working group. But as we know, the state statute does require that a certain percentage of that does have to go to tourism promotion. So there would still be that component to a county lodging tax, but it wouldn't pull in a whole lot. We'd be looking at some Airbnbs, short-term rentals, maybe a couple of campsites. So that's not going to be a huge source of revenue.
Thanks, Jake. So what, I mean, I think, sounds to me like, one of the first things that needs to happen is for whether it's you or with, collaboration with Preston, start putting together this more precise set of deliverables that would be part of any potential new contract with the chamber or whoever we might contract with. I guess that sounds like the first thing that needs to happen. As far as council goes, do you guys think, it sounds like, I mean, I heard a little bit of consensus that option 2 is as presented in the memo is not really a one that we want to consider because that opens up professional marketing firms from out of the area. So it sounds to me like we'd be debating between 1 and 3, right?
Yeah.
And
My suggestion is to possibly limit the term to 1 year while you continue to flesh out option 3. See how that would.
so you're suggesting that we, given the great work that the chamber's doing, the presentation they just made was very impressive on how they've got a lot of new things happening, a lot of new membership. They've got the free membership thing going, so there's good stuff happening. Go ahead and renew the contract with them for a 1 year basis and then work on some of this other stuff.
With the inclusion of the metrics and the deliverables that.
Yeah.
Use that as a chance to evaluate against those before we make a decision to alter the process.
I'm open to that. You guys think?
Yeah, so we're not actually voting on renewing the contract at this point, but we are just kind of laying a path forward. Yeah, I'm good with that path.
And which options to keep on the table and which ones to take off.
Right.
I honestly, just for the record, I'm not in favor of seeing it come in-house. I just think culturally, I'd like to see a contractor be nested within the community outside of town hall itself. And with other staffing issues in town, planning and things like that, I'd love to see more effort put into that than to either have a new role, new staffer, or added work for existing staff. So I wouldn't even entertain number 3.
Okay. That's good to know. Well, is that enough direction for tonight?
So I think we heard from everybody. I think that will be.
Anybody in the audience have anything they want to add, either on Zoom or here in the room?
I like to answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had our board meeting today and we realized that in our PSA that a town council motion is required, or I'm not sure.
There's supposed to be a town council
But
liaison.
I
There was.
think we hopeful
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
increase communication as
And
well.
I don't remember when that fell off.
Streamlined. I think it's
Oh, okay. So
So
it does exist.
we
Gotcha.
will invite her to upcoming meetings, and I think that'll be a good pivot too, in terms of communication with the town council, the chamber, and she's more in the loop too. We'll
Great.
do that.
That'd be great.
No, I think that's really key. Tanya?
And I'll just add about the chamber, about keeping it out of house rather than in-house. You have 4 to 6 volunteers on the board who help move projects along with the chamber. Where if you moved it in-house, it would have to be you guys again, or some staff helping move things along. So you get that free services by having it outside. And also carefully, please consider the website, because ridgwaycolorado.com is a pretty powerful promotion for this community.
Thanks, Tanya. Okay,
So just to, I think what I'm hearing is to, a request to staff to develop some deliverables and some metrics that would guide the next contract. And that at this point, it sounds like the most attractive option is to consider renewing the contract at the end of the year. But that's not the decision that's being made now, but that's the general path that we're looking at going, and you'll take a look at those deliverables, you know, the remaining of the year and make that decision when the time's right, you know, before the end of the year. So is that what I'm hearing?
Terry, does that sit well with you in terms of waiting until the contract renegotiation to determine the term on it?
Have staff propose it. I mean, my suggestion was just to allow the continuity to give more time to explore their options.
Yeah, the current agreement expires December 31, so we could have a new agreement before you all in the fall.
all right,
Okay, great.
sounds good.
Thanks a lot for the guidance.
Thanks, everybody.
You guys.
Okay, that takes us to item number 14, resolution number 23-11, submitting to the electorate of the town of Ridgway during November 7th, 2023 special municipal election to be held with a coordinated election. Question seeking authority to increase the lodging tax, setting the ballot title and content of the ballot issue, and providing other matters related thereto. Question.
Mouthful. So last month's work session received direction based on the continued conversation to evaluate strategies for a dedicated revenue source for affordable housing. That direction being number one, submit a notice of intent to participate in the November election to the Green County Clerk and Reporter's Office. Second piece was to craft a ballot title and content for your consideration. That's why we're here tonight. We started by proposing an increase to the lodging tax rate of 6%. That's 3.5% up to 6%. That is split of 50-50. 50% to tourism promotion. The other 50% to affordable housing. And I'll come back to that in a second. The third piece, we'll come back to it now, actually. The initial draft of the ballot language include early childhood care and education as an eligible expenditure in addition to affordable and workforce housing efforts. So the ballot language that's before you in the resolution tries to hit on all that direction. And it's based on all the previous discussions of council. This dates back to, I think the first conversation would have been a year ago, last summer, so July of 2022. So we're looking for some specific direction as it relates to the ballot language to get it set. Via this formal resolution, which would refer the ballot title and the content to the November 7th coordinated election. So that's the gist. You'll see the title and the content in the body or in the exhibit to the resolution. There's a lot there. Hopefully we've had a chance to check it out, but want to know what you all think.
Great, thanks, Preston.
The first thing I noticed in the language is the familiarity phenomena where we've been focused in on this, and there's going to be people reading this that might think that the 50% allocated towards up to for lodging for tourism is something that's new, as opposed to understanding the history of the split.
Yeah, I think the challenge with these things is always public outreach and education and publicity and all the various media outlets. The lodging, I mean, the language of these things is largely constrained by Tabor, I believe, and it's always a challenge to try and have it be something.
What do you call it? Is it the blue book, the pamphlet we get that describes the ballot initiatives?
Yeah.
Couldn't some of that,
Yeah, we
that
could,
education occur in that form?
we could submit an in favor of whether the town could do it or whether somebody else would have to do it is the.
Yeah, so I think that that's a really good point, and sorry, because Preston and I didn't coordinate on this. I would probably suggest that we just give a thumbs up with respect to direction tonight and give notice to the clerk and recorder's office that we intend to proceed. Because once the ballot language is set by resolution, there could be no further expenditure of any sort of municipal funds. So in the event that there is a desire to have another round and put forth a resolution in support of this concept at the August council meeting, you could certainly do that. But then once you've set the title, set the kind of ballot language, you can't spend any more public funds. You can do a independent committee on your own time. You can go out and advocate, but there can't be any sort of municipal funds in support of it.
That's what I was referring to. I was suggesting that Terry's idea that the blue book is what most people call it, that a smaller group be formed to generate an explanatory paragraph about it and approach the issue that JT brings up that way.
The blue book is something a little more formal and objective. I think it just outlines all the content of the initiative. Are there pro and con statements?
Yes, there are pros and cons. So individually, council members could provide in their individual capacity a pro or con statement to the town, and then those are usually condensed and kind of combined. So
Well, they wouldn't give it to the town, they'd give it to the county.
The other language issue, of course, this isn't fun language, but to try to find a way to link affordable housing with childcare, in my mind, the way to link it would be to term this workforce support, which includes affordable housing and childcare, rather than just listing them individually. That what we're funding with the proceeds is workforce support. It has like an A and a B, rather than the two don't seem to be linked currently in this language.
Are you suggesting that this language be edited to address that, or you're talking a bit more about how?
Well, it's maybe splitting hairs in terms of language, but just in concept, you know.
Right, I understand the
Yeah,
concept.
previously, we've been talking about 50-50 was promotion and affordable housing, and now Jake's suggestion last, whatever it was, the workshop, I guess, of adding the child support. It didn't seem like it was, there was a way to link the two, and I think if you umbrella it with workforce support, and then underneath that umbrella is housing and childcare.
But I think, I agree with you. I think that it's, at least I hope you're not suggesting editing this wording to address that concern. It's more what we do in the promotion and education, public education.
You know, maybe that it's pretty simple edit. Is this set in stone or?
No, I just, what exactly are you proposing?
Which line? When I first saw him mention of it, to provide affordable workforce housing and improve early childhood, it could be to provide workforce support that includes affordable housing and childcare. Just as a way to put the two elements under one umbrella.
I think that's a good spin. Really do. I like that approach, because the childcare just kind of seems like
An
an
add-on.
add-on.
Yeah.
It was just kind of tagged on.
That's the way to
provides it a
together.
little more continuity.
That's so funny. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
In my mind, affordable housing and childcare, like, yeah, absolutely go together. It's like if you need affordable.
I'm not saying they don't, I'm
Oh,
just saying.
I just didn't even occur to me. So thanks for bringing it up, because I was like, oh yeah, workforce housing and childcare, like you need.
To be clear,
Kristen writing that down. Bo, do you have any problems with that concept?
no, I do, because I'm so definitely afraid of taper. And so I always kind of wish to proceed with the utmost caution. So to the extent that there's, you know, some red lines that are put forth tonight, I'm totally in favor of that, and I think that that's fine. I'd like to see notifying the clerk and recorder's office that, like, yes, we intend to proceed, and then let's just make sure that we can use a belt and suspenders approach to button it up during the month of August.
Awesome. I just noticed the word childhood is missing the first D.
Yeah, it's children.
Childhood.
Children.
But I'm open to Terry's suggestion.
I like Terry's suggestion and thumbs up to moving forward with this idea as opposed to suggesting dialing it in and speaking forward.
I'll second it.
So the motion would be to approve resolution 2311 with a slight modification. I mean, do you want us to actually state the way Terry stated the modification, or leave it to you guys to?
So I think I took a note. So first, I think what Bo was saying is suggestion is to we can come back in August.
Yeah.
Some modified language. Yeah, consider approving the resolution.
Okay.
But we do want
I'll
to,
just read what Terry suggested and you guys can let me know. if I'm incorrect. So starting with any other actions by the town or in partnership, to provide workforce support that includes affordable housing and childhood care.
Care and education.
Care and education.
and that was affordable and workforce housing and improving childhood care.
So to provide workforce support that includes affordable and workforce housing.
Yes.
Improve early. Yeah. So we still need, do we still need a motion tonight to forward it to the county?
We just need a motion. It shouldn't be on the resolution, to be frank. But just a motion to notify the clerk and recorder's office that we intend to proceed with the ballot question at the November general election.
I move to.
Just say. So.
Don't
move. Second. What he said. All right, Polly makes the motion, Russ seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Got it, thank you. And then the resolution will come back.
And we can do one that identifies kind of the workforce aspects, kind of the need for this, like a little bit of a support one. Would that be the direction as well?
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention at the forefront, obviously Jake Neese was present. He brought the topic of childhood care up at the last conversation, but he invited Clay Willow with the Futures Foundation. I don't know if you'd like to say anything, but I think we got some good direction.
Yeah, we think the combining it, your idea, Terry, is great. I think that giving people some context, because unfortunately not everybody connects though. So yeah, I think that's a really great idea and we'd love to help in any way we can.
Okay, great. There'll be lots of opportunity for public outreach to educate the public about what this is all about. Try and get it passed. Okay. So I believe that's it on that item. That takes us to item number 15, resolution number 23-12, establishing a fee schedule for land use applications. First.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So as part of the process to update the town zoning and subdivision regulations, also known as the land use regs, fees for the various land use applications were removed from the code, which is kind of more standard, and now must be established via a formal fee schedule. Again, I would, in my opinion, a more standard practice among municipalities. Another standard practice is to recuperate the costs incurred for services. So to have a fee schedule in place. So before you is a resolution establishing a fee schedule for land use applications, including the new applications that were created as part of Chapter 7.
You have a great chance to review resolution on the new fee schedule.
Yep.
I just have a quick question. I'm not a land use expert, obviously, but I just want to make sure that these numbers are in line with local communities and with Colorado overall. Like it's $1,500 for the PUD average.
It's on the low side.
Okay.
It's on the low side.
I'm just wondering if
TJ and I talked about it, but we haven't been able to take it to a point to suggest new fees for all the applications. We're at a point where we feel comfortable enough getting fees in place for the new applications. But this needs to be in place like tonight. Since the moratorium.
Since we,
So get to it.
Love that.
But that's a wonderful question. Appreciate that. Again, TJ and I were just talking about that today. That's something I think we'll keep a pulse on and start looking around other communities, comparable communities. But I had already known it was on the low side, and TJ said it's definitely on the low side. So we'll hopefully come back soon. Revisit the fee schedule.
well, we need to fee schedules
It's
in place.
as a resolution that can be amended at any time.
Sure.
Awesome. That's,
Now, I had to chuckle when I saw the administrative adjustment, $150. I see it on my bill. What? What did you adjust? For $150. What's that?
Administrative
Is
adjustment.
it just a slush fund?
No, it's not. It's explicitly not a slush fund.
But no,
Careful, Terry.
Oh, man, I laugh.
There's an application. It's an application type. There's forgetting all the points, but
Change within 10% of.
yeah, exactly. I think the threshold is 10%. And if it falls within that, then staff can approve that administratively, but there's.
It's part of a new chapter 7.
That's a
Yeah, if you went through all that,
That
yeah,
stack of
yeah,
You guys over at planning looked at that a couple times?
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Once or twice.
Just a few.
Are the rates, when they originally set, were they tied to AMI or anything like that? They were just established it, like, we're gonna charge $100 from that, and then that builds the legacy going forward.
Ideally, they were set on what the time it was taking staff to deal with these things.
Okay, so it's time according. Capacity.
Ideally, some of them are hard to pin down exactly how much staff time it takes, but it's with the understanding that the higher level ones, those are big deal processes that are going to take a number of meetings and a lot of staff review.
Seems like $50.
Backs and forth.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is great, because that's kind of what I'm talking about, needs some forecasting too, based on, you know, what TJ's rate is, what staff members' various rates are, and so, yeah, good question, but it's a standard rate across the board. Now, at the tail end of the fee schedule, you see the notice about out-of-pocket costs related to engineering and legal, and then how the town council can waive fees for projects with significant public benefit, such as perpetual deed restricted affordable or workforce housing projects, waterfront homes being the primary example there.
And just to be clear, this goes into general fund.
All these applicants generally.
And does that affect the balance that we have that could be paid towards additional staff and/or planner? So to use these numbers to figure out our budgeting for a planner or a contract with a planner?
Yeah, I mean, we sit, Pam and I and others every budget cycle to anticipate what's coming in based on various applications and those fees and other fees associated with splitting lots and subdividing into a number of lots based on the development excise tax, based on tap fees. And so I don't know if I'm answering the question, but yeah, we try to forecast based on what's on the horizon.
Yeah. And like you said, we approve this as is. We still have opportunity down the line item amendments and increases.
Oh, absolutely.
When it's beyond the 10% or whatever the cap is.
Yeah, TJ and I just didn't feel comfortable, you know, with 2 days to just, you know, start throwing out numbers and increasing arbitrarily. We wanted some data and some forecasting to support that. Looking at comparable communities being the best way.
and when you get that, could you just bring it back to us? Because I want to make sure that, you know, staff's time is being used appropriately and it's being paid for by these activities.
Compensated.
Yeah,
I would love to see those comps specifically for when people say, man, we went to the town, and we applied for this or that, and it's so expensive. To be able to say, hey, actually, in Montrose it costs this, and in Denver it costs this, we're low.
Sure. Yeah.
So something along those lines. That's what I was just trying to get my head around.
So we ready to do something?
Yeah.
Okay, I move to approve the new land use schedule.
Resolution number.
Resolution number 23-12.
Second.
Motion made by Russ, seconded by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to item number 16, consideration of promulgating voluntary water restrictions pursuant to the town's water conservation management plan. Preston?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So attached to the memo is resolution 18-06. The town of Ridgway Water Conservation and Management Plan. When it was first adopted and even now holds true, there's a desire to conserve water in times of need and ensure effective and safe delivery of water to the community. What's interesting is that right now, if you go to drought.gov, the whole state of Colorado is just like a blank white slate. I've never seen that. It's wild. No levels of drought being experienced. And maybe that's changed in the last day or so, but this was as of like last Thursday, being experienced in any counties, specifically in your county. Wild, right? Well, at the same time, I spent a lot of time at the water plant. Water production records are on par with previous summers. Right now, we're producing on average about 290,000 gallons a day, which is one. We have two of those tanks up there. That's one of those tanks. It's not more than usual. It's not really less than usual. It's about on par with previous years. And so I thought it'd be good to have a conversation. The trigger in that drought management plan is drought. Not really a drought, but we're still producing and consuming quite a bit of water. So I thought it'd be worthwhile to have a conversation about making efforts to encourage water efficiency and to be able to use. It's hot out there, a lot going on. So I want to see people done.
We technically not in a drought anymore.
It almost looks like Colorado isn't reporting data the way the
That's
lines.
right. That's what I thought, but I checked it. I made a phone call too. That's right. I checked it for like 3 straight days.
I did get categorically the state is out of annual drought. Annual
That's
drought, long-term drought, we're still in long-term drought. But that's not the only metric to hang on. Hang on. I mean, we're still going into fire dangers and all of that, so people are going to be using water. And rather than lots of people, nurturing an environment where people willingly just keep irrigating 7 days a week, their yards. So
with the fire outlook, we might be looking at just on a call today, Sheriff Perry and others. I mean, next week's going to be looking kind of rough. And so I'm looking at fire restrictions potentially and
Under red flag.
yeah, the Masons for sure.
Does anybody think this is something we shouldn't do?
Absolutely not.
No,
I want to make a motion.
I would
Go ahead.
finally. I moved to promulgate stage 1 voluntary water restrictions for the town of Ridgway.
Seconded.
Motion made by JT, seconded by Polly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to budget preparation schedule.
same as it ever was this time of year.
It's endless.
But
Did we just do this?
We are just.
So this year the retreats.
It is not in Hawaii,
Why?
none of the budget.
Hey, Bo,
Right? Kidding, I'm absolutely kidding.
we can do this. It's supposed to. That's actually a great spot.
It is a really.
Budget check. Coffee maker inside, kick back. It's a great spot. This is just a rough draft. Do you want to call your attention to all the hearings or formal town council meetings of that budget retreat? We have it on October 21, Saturday. to us.
And none of these dates conflict with our Delta Highway things, right?
Why, you don't come anyway?
That's the picture, that's the meme on that calendar.
Oh, man, that was gutsy.
Yeah.
That was really gutsy.
Go look for your miracle ticket elsewhere.
But generally October 21 works. If so, I'll just go ahead and set it on, get it on the calendar now.
Be coming right back from the summit, meeting up at Mountain Town 2030 up in Vale. It's the 17th, actually 17th till the 19th. Oh, right. Yes. October.
21st,
Tuesday to Thursday.
Never mind. I had to do it, I had to think it in my mind.
21st work for everybody?
Yep.
Works here.
Good.
Just a written report, so no, nothing needed on that, but we'll keep this in the packet and fresh for you all and keep you all posted as we go, but getting to that time of year.
So, that would be like a 9 to 2 or something.
Exactly. Unless you all want to make it like 9 to 5. We can find stuff to talk.
What a
It's
fun
gonna be 2 hours.
proposal. I love that idea for you.
That sounds sadistic.
What's that?
I said, what a fun proposal. I love that idea for you.
And I want everybody to get in the habit of calling the space create room the Decker Community Room.
Decker community room.
All right. That's what it is. See, I had to find that.
My computer knows to populate third weekend of October with the town council budget.
Love that for you, especially serious listening.
All right. Moving on.
Yes. That takes us to the town manager's report.
Strategic plan.
Oh, sorry, the strategic plan progress report.
It was, we were supposed to take us to that, but I have not had a chance to finish that. So I apologize. Actually, I should ask for that to be. Sorry. I'll continue working on that and just email it out when I can. And we can have it on the August agenda to talk about. Last year, we had it on the August agenda. I just got over eager, and thought we could do it in July. What a silly thought. It's silly. But as far as the manager's report, there's a couple of things I wanted to highlight that aren't in there. The Baldy Mountain meeting on Monday was great. The intro session and then the open house after that. Jake Neese is on the call. He represented the county in the remarks. I didn't stay for the open house portion, but I talked with him yesterday. He said it went pretty well. So that was GBUG National Forest, National Forest Foundation, Bureau of Land Management, West Region Wildfire Council, Colorado State Forest Service, and then the county, of course, holding, sponsoring that open house to provide the public with information about the Baldy Mountain Landscape Resiliency and Habitat Improvement Project. It's over at the 4-H Center. So thanks to all those entities, especially the county, for spearheading that. I thought it was a great session. There were project specialists available to engage with the attendees. It wasn't as well attended as I thought it would be. I think Jake mentioned the same thing, but there were still some interested and concerned locals that attended to answer, ask questions and get more information about the objectives of the project, treatment techniques, stuff like that. So, any questions on that?
No, me.
Then yesterday there was the infrastructure development summit that was also at the 4-H Center. Mayor Clark was there. That was put on by the state of Colorado. At least they hosted it, aiming to assist local governments, not just in our region. They're holding them all around the state. I think we were on the tail end of the tour.
I think so.
They did one in Durango today. aim was to provide information about all the opportunities that come with the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, IIJA. So a lot of information, really good information about what organizations need to do to be successful in applying, things to think about, best practices for administering funds. There's some great sessions throughout. I had to run lunchtime, but I caught the road and bridge funding and the water funding sessions, which were great. Anything to add on that?
I had a conversation over lunch with a gal from DOLA about water in particular and the idea of potentially piping a good portion of her ditch. And she said this would be an ideal time to try and do that. She said, start with Patrick Rondinelli, our regional DOLA rep, and he can help us find the right initial path. And it sounds like there's no better time. We've been talking about it for decades, and it's a big project, but there's money out there. So
I'd love to see that kick forward.
Yeah, we were talking, I mean, that one came to mind, and then the other one was based on the road funding session for me, at least, was in Million Street. And Jake actually brought that up because he was there as well. So, but it was great. It was great. So,
And another one that I think is on our 10-year plan, 10-year, it's the term for it, 10-year capital improvements plan, was the idea of looking into putting a hydroelectric system in our water supply. It's already there.
I feel like what we bumped up against in that discussion in the past is that there might not be enough head. Now, if we can combine it with the piping.
I was thinking from the tank, from the treatment plant downtown, in that not on the above that.
down above the
Not from Lake O.
From the treatment plant
From the
into
tank
town.
down. So we got a lot ahead there. Something to explore. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
our planning grants, look into it.
maybe Joanne's on the line. Joanne, the main from the plant into town, do we have the potential of looking at it hydroelectric on that?
Yeah, I think you have the potential. I mean, we drop substantially. I think the problem with the line to town is the flows are so variable over the course of the day. The problem with the stuff from Lake O, when we looked at it, when we were building the water plant, was that Sampa didn't feel like there was a good place for them to get the power. But I think sounds like Sampa's attitude has changed some in the last 15, 20 years.
At least somebody from Sampa's attitude has changed.
That's a more steady flow.
Right.
But even with the hydro generators can be variable speed and you just get the energy out of it that you get out of it.
Right.
It doesn't get.
Well, it sounds like someone you put on the list.
Looking into like a planning grant.
Yeah.
Doing microgrids.
Yep.
Just to interim stuff.
Okay, thanks, Fred. One other thing that's not in the report, I won't talk too much longer, but the Decker community now has open hours, regular open hours, so the public can access the room and the food show. We're talking about Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That will be staffed primarily by Tara and also volunteers. Just in the last 2 days, the traffic in there. I was in there today with Tara, and there was a lot of folks coming in. It was wild, just in the hour that I was in there, and a lot of folks inquiring about volunteering to staff the space. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, any of us, I know I will be volunteering some hours in there. If any of you have the opportunity to do that, it would be hugely helpful. And I don't know if Tara copied council on that email that I got about volunteering. I think it was more directed to the fuse group, and I was peripheral to that.
So out of curiosity, people come in space from 10 to 2 to do what? Just
To check out the art show that's currently in place.
We just need a staff person there to kind of oversee it. If it's gonna be open, there needs to be somebody.
There's going to be a revolving part.
Well, right now it's the show that from the grand opening, and we've decided to extend that for anybody that wants to leave their work there through like August 24th, I think. So it'll thin out a little bit, but yes, the plan is over time to have a show in there as often as possible, probably not constantly rotating, maybe eventually, but there'll be other things going on too.
Beyond just checking out the art, I mean, there's places to sit, have coffee and have conversations, and it's public space, and so that's part of it too.
Air conditioning.
Air conditioned.
Yeah,
Public sphere.
So, and just a starting point of the hours, we can certainly adjust subject to change based on feedback and availability, so.
Is there any security issues with accessing art that's?
Well, that's why we need some.
That's why we need some of this.
That's why we can't just leave it open.
Picture work.
I
I'll know where to look when it disappears.
I do just want to say that that art show in there, I think it was curated by Joseph Mayfield.
He was involved. He did the Pride show first, and then Tara.
Tara did an incredible job. That is a beautifully curated.
Well,
art show.
to be totally clear, sorry if I'm interrupting it. Andy Decease and Vanessa and Bruce Backer of Root Wings hung it, and they're who to thank for the layout. And basically, I think Tara essentially accepted anything that anybody wanted to submit. I totally agree with you. I think it's one of the best art shows, quality wise, that I've ever seen in this county. It's amazing.
It's really well done. It's really well done.
It's a great kickoff.
A couple more things, thanks to the folks who participated on Saturday, Adopt a Highway. Athletic Park Master Plan kickoff is next week. The professional services agreement between the town and DHM has been executed, so their project team, Deborah Overton and I will kick off a call. That'll be followed by the on-site visit and the start of all the stakeholder meetings. So it's happening a little bit later than we wanted to, but summer vacations is what it is. But excited to get back open. And then wanted to highlight that we have some folks leaving the town of Ridgway. Mike Jenkins has been planning to retire for quite some time now, and that date has been constantly moving. But I do think we are pinpointed August 31, so about a month and a half, and he will formally retire from the town. I'm hoping that changes again, but right now we're going to plan as if that's the date, and we'll definitely be celebrating them. Right at this point, one of the town's longest tenured employees. How long years do you think?
Well, after Randy,
I know after Randy, probably.
how many years?
Yeah, it's like 28 or something.
More than that, because I think I'm 28, so he's
30 something. Long time. And a great employee. We have Jess Nunn moving on. She's going to be a veterinary assistant at the Ridgway Animal Hospital. Her last day is at the end of the month. And
Happy for her, but very sorry.
Every day we ask her, what's it going to take for you to stay? And nothing. She's somebody this year.
Have we offered her a veterinary room here in this town hall?
We don't grooming.
And then Deputy Pickle, Jeff Pickle, he's transitioning to the Erie County Sheriff's Office. So his last day is July 28th, I think. So sad to see him go.
The county sure needs it.
Are you in the process of filling these positions? Absolutely, it's going to be a big gap.
So.
What was the question?
Are we in the process of
filling the positions?
Filling.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry to end on a sad note, but happy for all those folks nonetheless. So there's more in the report, but I'll just stop talking.
Anybody have questions?
I do.
Preston, go ahead.
On the Winter Horn Homes, I know that when we originally set that up, the town had the ability to take one of those homes, and I think we had that reservation in. I never did really hear that we offered it up, or if anybody was interested. Whatever happened with that?
Well, that was for the, I believe that was written in the development agreement, Bo can help me, but that was for the town to acquire.
That's what I meant. That's what he had to say.
And we didn't budget. We had a conversation during the budget cycle, and we did set those funds aside. Now, if you want to revisit that, it was pretty clear at the time that that wasn't a priority. You want to revisit that, we certainly can.
Just to piggyback on that, there's a right of first refusal. So when something comes on market, the town's.
Okay.
Would we have to budget for the total cost of it, or just for the down payment and then a recurring mortgage or something?
I would have to do the total costs or go to the voters on a multi-year fiscal obligation.
We can't do a multi-year fiscal obligation.
That's what I'm sensing.
Not
Last
easily.
concert series was spectacular. Thank you, family. Tomorrow's gonna be a good one.
Where are they? It's hot in here right now.
Where are they from? Where were,
They're
Jenny and the Mexicats?
they're from all over Mexico.
Mexico.
She's from London.
That's from London.
I was trying to figure it all out, because I looked on the website, it's like, this person's from here, this one,
They're from all over.
that's all. Yeah,
While they're touring, they're together, but otherwise they're all over.
that's amazing.
They were awesome.
And tomorrow night, they're from Africa.
Very excited about that.
Check out the documentary about the men band for tomorrow night. It's just type of men, and it comes up, you can pull it off the website.
Thanks.
Yes.
All right, any other questions for Preston? What do you think, Bo? How was Karen's joke?
It was okay. Yeah, it was half good.
What is it? No.
The joke is from Karen Christian's deputy clerk. My half brother and I are banned from using the saw anymore.
No.
Come on, give us a round.
Right? I agree.
No, she says.
We rate our jokes on Iron.
No.
Don't tell Karen that that was the response.
I was gonna
Oh,
say,
shit.
Sharon's considering email saying no.
That's it.
Okay.
So there you go. Any other, let's see, we got.
We have an executive.
We do have an executive session. I was gonna maybe take care of committee reports first, so we get done all together when we're done with the executive session. Anybody have any committee reports?
Status quo process, sustainability advisory board right now. I'm just waiting for how we're gonna deliver actionable stuff to the council regarding state code, energy code, beneficial electrification, mandatory electrification. I actually was not able, last minute, not able to attend last week's SAB meeting. But Kim Wheels is having her in the house is invaluable in this process, so. Probably going into August, we will hand you some bullet points of things that need to be known.
Right. Okay, anybody else?
I did attend the meeting.
You did either.
The issue that may come before the council is whether to be more aggressive than the state requirements. The board has recommended that it be required by municipalities to adopt the schedule is.
Okay.
I suspect.
We talking about going beyond just solar and EV ready and just.
No, it's more the all electric ready. This is my input on that committee is. All electric ready is a stepping stone towards net zero. Excuse me, all electric is a stepping stone towards net zero. All electric is a stepping stone towards all electric ready is a stepping stone towards all electric. I'm questioning why we bother taking that step and just set a time frame and a schedule to require all electric. So that
For
would be the
new
second-
construction.
or for new construction, every month. just to avoid that interim step. The issue being that all electric ready means if somebody wants to put in gas, they also have to plumb electric to every one of those appliances and create space, which means the cost of the gas ultimately is a stranded asset, piping and everything. Right, Bob, with that, just set a, a modest schedule for going all electric, skip the all electric ready. That's just my particular input, so it'll come. So
Makes sense.
when the time is right.
Okay. Are we ready for the executive session citation? I believe so.
Thanks, Shane.
You haven't voted yet.
Oh,
You're waiting for one second.
probably just.
Okay.
What's going on? No mics tonight.
I'm finished. Wait
No,
till
we
it's up.
forgot, there's all that stuff on there and
It's too much going on.
we just said. Looking forward to the condenser mics you're talking about. That's definitely what I said all along. Or, yeah, you were talking.
No, what you said?
Yeah, either that or directional mic shotgun.
I mean, it was direction.
Yeah.
All right, so we need
Executive session
Yeah, are we ready?
Yeah,
before we all.
let's go.
If we could,
I'm hungry.
if we could get a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 24-6-4024B for consultation with the town attorney and 24-6-4024E for matters subject to negotiation regarding the town's possible purchase of water rights.
So moved.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
All right, now.
Have a great.
Thanks, Aaron.
You're
If
so
I put too long, or Polly's gonna get angry.
I know, I'm like ordering on the border.
See you tomorrow.
What's happening tomorrow?
After the park.
Oh, yeah, I thought you meant the dam tour. I'll be there too. So whoever's going on the dam tour, anybody, John, I'll see you on the dam tour.
Okay, the damn tour. It's gonna be cool.
Put that on.
Are we ready?
When the
It is
When you know,
Wednesday.
actually, there's someone on. Kristen,
Arnold, can you disconnect, please? We're going to executive session.
There it is.
Are you there, Kristen?
They logged in for continuing education. program.
You know that that should be it.
let the
Kristen?
record show. One more time, no.
Yeah, Kristen, if you don't disconnect yourself in a little bit, we're gonna have to just disconnect you, so hopefully that's okay. Are you there? We're gonna disconnect you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Go ahead, buddy. Oh, all right.
All right, are we ready?
Ready, we're ready.
You sure?
Pam, your outfit's very cute.
It is Wednesday, July 12th, 8:03 PM. This is an executive session of the Town of Ridgway Town Council pursuant to 24-6-4024B for consultation with the town attorney, 24-6-4024E for matters subject to negotiation regarding the town's possible purchase of water rights. Participants at the executive session include Bo Early,
Kevin Grambley,
Polly Kroger.
Russ Meyer.
John Clark.
JT Thomas.
Terry Skyler.
Rustin Neal.
Luann Fagan.
I caution each participant to define the discussion to the stated purpose of the executive session. At any point during the executive session, any person believes we go outside the proper scope of the executive session, please interrupt the discussion and make an objection. As the attorney for the town of Ridgway, it is my position that the discussion constitutes privileged attorney-client communication. Therefore, I'm recommending that no recording be kept of this executive. The time is 8:11 PM and we are concluding the executive session and returning the open meeting. The participants of the executive session were as follows: Bo Nerlin,
Kevin Grambley,
Polly Kroger.
Russ Meyer.
John Clark.
JT Thomas.
Terry Skyler.
Rustin Neal.
Luann Fagan.
if any participant believes we went outside the proper scope of the executive session, please make an objection on the record. Hearing none, turn it back over to the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Bo. Unless there's any other issues at hand or work to be done, I'm going to declare us adjourned.
Sweet.
Right, Joanne?
Night.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
By the way, a brief update, Coda Radio